Grazie ancora al professor Minazzi per la sua raffinata e rigorosa relazione. Adesso ho il piacere, siamo un po' fuori tempo, ma ho il piacere di introdurre il professor Kevin Lee, prolifico cineasta e critico, riconosciuto soprattutto per l'importante apporto rispetto al formato del videosaggio, in particolare del desktop documentary, tra pratica registica e critica, già insignito di numerosi premi per i suoi lavori. Kevin Lee è da 2 anni professore all'USI, dove insegna, fa ricerca sia nella facoltà di comunicazione, cultura e società, sia all'Accademia di Architettura, e precisamente è Professor for the Future of Cinema and Audiovisual Arts, un titolo diciamo abbastanza impegnativo. Siamo felici di ascoltare il suo contributo, che sarà in inglese, dedicato a Cinematic Thinking and the Video Essay. Kevin, please, the floor is yours.
Grazie. Grazie a tutti. Mi dispiace, I don't speak Italian very fluently or any of the official Swiss languages, and we are already over time, I'm afraid, so I will keep this presentation, how do you say, breve, semplice e memorabile. So yes, as mentioned, I am a professor of the future of cinema at the USI in partnership with Locarno Film Festival. I ask myself, what is the future of cinema? And I think one important fact is that we are now in an age where everyone has the potential to produce audiovisual images. And so it's not just for producing cinema, but for producing a language of everyday communication, how we perceive and how we communicate our understanding of the world through the audiovisual, through the tools of cinema. And so I find it very relevant for today's gathering to think about how audiovisual language and cinema helps us explore the relationship between ourselves as human beings, both in terms of our minds and our bodies, and the physical world. So beginning next year, I will begin a 3-year research project with the SNF, generous support, on this topic of the video essay through these 3 dimensions of understanding memories, ecologies, and bodies. That this research project aims to investigate how the video essay can use the language of cinema to produce knowledge in the audiovisual form. And this raises an important question. What does it mean that knowledge is to be produced primarily through an audiovisual medium rather than through a textual medium? How do images and sounds transform our understanding of knowledge when we use it as an everyday language? Now, this form of video essay has been practiced primarily by film scholars in the last 10 or 15 years. But now, because the audiovisual is a tool that is in the hands of everyone, then we have to think of how to understand cinema beyond cinema, to think of how it can engage in different fields of knowledge, including academia, social media, art, science, politics, activism. At the beginning of this morning, I made a huge discovery for which I am already very grateful to have attended this symposium, because Dr. Claudio Bazzetti presented this work that I did not know about from 2006. And this is very much an example of a video essay of how one can use existing audiovisual material to produce a new insight, to explore a theme. So I would very much like to incorporate your work, Dr. Bazzetti, in my research with your kind agreement and participation. This was really a discovery for me, and I already informed my colleagues about it. So in some ways, we see a history of this practice, and that we can use it to understand the way that this will continue in the future. So again, it is an audiovisual and cinematic method of thinking and producing knowledge, organized within these three themes. On the one hand, how we use cinema and the video essay as a way to explore memories. And I think the example from Dr. Bazzetti was a way of thinking about memories in different contexts. Memories of our bodily experiences of sleep, of insomnia, of this neurological disorder regarding sleep, as told through the memory of cinema. That the body of cinema, that the many films that have been made over the last 130 years produce a body of memory of how human society has experienced this condition. Ecologies, which I will discuss further, that cinema now does not exist simply within the realm of cinema, but now exists within different fields, and then how our bodies become a central site for producing, perceiving, and sharing this cinematic knowledge. Again, because we now live in a world where we have access to technology that we keep with us, that our bodies are now a central site for producing cinema. So if we think about these different ecologies for the video essay as cinematic knowledge production, on the one hand, we see this emerging now with cinema and audiovisual art, that film festivals now have programs for video essays as a way of engaging with this new form of using cinema to reflect on media, on the body, and on the world. In academia, we see that there is a rise of film scholars, media scholars who are using the audiovisual as a primary form of research. And I found it very fascinating to listen to the presentation by Dr. Muriel Berton, because you were showing us how the medical community was developing this audiovisual language for itself as a tool of study and research. And we now see the same happening in the academic community. So it's a new language of knowledge production that takes place in many different fields. And then we must also acknowledge the role of social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. These are the platforms where more audiovisual media is being produced than in cinemas, than in television, than in any other space for the audiovisual, especially for producing knowledge. Here we see examples where film critics are producing video essays to explore different topics of contemporary cinema, but it expands into many other fields. So these three primary fields of cinema and visual art, academia, and social media are of interest to me in my research. And I think, how exactly do these different worlds speak to each other? I do not see these worlds as separate. I see them as having the potential to intersect. How is art related to academia and research? How is social media and YouTube a tool for producing knowledge that has academic relevance? So from these points of intersections, I see many possibilities for both insights and for new forms of aesthetic forms and creativity. So this is all the English that you will need to hear today from me, because now I would like to show you a fascinating example from a researcher in Paris, Occident Lacurie, who is involved both with academia, with festivals and art galleries and social media. And so she has produced this video essay that I will show you now. It's 10 minutes, 10 minuti. And it is a critique of menstrual apps on her phone. These apps, this device that tracks a woman's period cycle as a way to help them manage their biological well-being. And through this, she makes a fascinating exploration relating this to cinema, to social media, to journalism, to science, and to occult knowledge. you will see many, many forms of knowledge taking place in this video, and it all takes place within the space of her phone. So it's a work of auto-research, and let's watch it now. So, there is so much we could say about this film, but I know we have almost no time. So I will just offer one remark, which is that it shows in many ways a possibility of a future of cinema that is technologically mediated, that exists in our everyday world, that on the one hand is accessible to the general public, but at the same time is highly controlled by technological companies through their interfaces that produce a form of cinema and media that is not just a media that you watch, but is also watching you, that is extracting data, that is collecting information based on your interactions. And so this presents new questions about how this form of interactivity benefits an individual person. It's very interesting that what is presented here in many ways is a kind of nightmare, a horror movie of a techno-dystopian mediation between technology and one's body. And it's interesting that at the end, the form of knowledge that this author reverts to is occult knowledge, a knowledge that has, in many ways, would be contradictory to thousands of years of scientific advancements, the type of science and technology that that has been produced by many of you. And so what we make of this contemporary condition where this type of scientific advancement put within the context of this technological dystopia produces a kind of paranoia or a kind of distrust of science and technology. I think these are very important questions that a film like this leaves us with. So I know there's much more to discuss, but I thank you for your time. Grazie mille.